Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
And let's talk horror.
Today we're going to do our review on Creepshow 1982.
Now, first and foremost, this was my pick because today is Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day!
It's Father's Day.
And of course, as you know me,
Where's my cake? You promised me my cake! Cornelia, I'm your father.
yes, I do want my cake. But we thought what better way to honor all the fathers out there than to do one of my favorite Father's Day movies. So from the bottom of my heart, all you fathers out there that are doing the yes, from the bottom of our hearts, for all the fathers that are out there doing the damn thing, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It's so easy to look at fathers as deadbeats and, not doing as well as they can for their children. For the fathers that are out there breaking their backs, breaking their fingers to make sure their children are taken care of, thank you. Mm-hmm. If you don't hear it enough, Papa was a Rolling Stone. That's all we get, gentlemen. Thank you for what you do.
And we hope you have the best Father's Day ever.
I hope it's perfect.
So now we're going to get into our positives, our negatives, and we're going to spoil this film from 1982. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it and come back.
Right. So again, thank you guys so much for everything you do. Thank you for watching, and let's get into the positives.
So we got to give it out to the cameos in this movie. We have Stephen King as Jordy Verrill, you muckhead. I think he does really good in that little skit. He's
Sure.
It might not be the best one of all of them,
Right.
but he's still really funny and
He definitely he's talked openly about how he regrets doing it, but it's amazing. Like it's a little time capsule and getting to see him do this. I think it's great as well.
Yeah.
You also have our man Tom Savini. He's one of the garbage men, so just another little cameo that we like to see in the film.
Mm-hmm. And then each mini story, it really just has a unique story. I mean, they're different from each other, and they're all just different stories, and each one of them is unique in its own way.
Yeah, and there are great special effects in this movie. The costumes with obviously Tom Savini, the underwater zombies.
Oh, those are my favorite.
A lot of how they look, they sound.
You can hold your breath. You can hold your breath.
As you can hear, they sound pretty great. But I love a lot of the practical effects throughout this movie as well. So a lot of great things with Tom Savini, George A. Romero, Stephen King all working together. That's a holy trinity of horror right there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cutscenes that look like they're animated, and they look like they're coming out of the actual comic, and the bright color scheme, I love that so much. It looks so cool.
And it's just the way they all tie back into the comic book, I
Yes.
think is great, because obviously this is all built around a comic book. So for them to actually do a lot of the jump cuts to make it look very comic-ish is so fucking
And
awesome.
just when the characters, they turn into like the comic book character themselves, it looks really great.
And then you have great acting. You have Ted Danson, you have young Ed Harris, Leslie Nielsen. He's completely unhinged. And a lot of these guys we know from comedy, and then to see them go back and, like I said, especially with Ted Danson and Leslie Nielsen, the way that those two are in Something to Tide You Over, the way they act is just so fucking great. At the end, we're going to tell you which one of our segments is our favorite, but I don't know if you could tell which one is mine, but we'll get to that at the end.
So the score is also really great. I love, especially in Tide You Over.
Yeah.
Just like when he's driving and just all the the creepy stuff that he does. I just love the score. It just really enhances everything.
So those are some of our positives about Creepshow. Let's kind of turn the tide a little bit, and let's talk about some of our negatives.
So some of the negatives, and so I'm gonna give Billy. He was young. I'm gonna give him a break. But some of his acting isn't great. Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, he wasn't. He was young, so he just wasn't the greatest actor. I felt like he was kind of like over the top acting, and
he's a great writer.
Yeah, he is a great writer. I love Lock and Key. He's such a good writer.
He's definitely grown into his own since
has.
Creepshow.
Yes.
Because it's an anthology, obviously we have 5 short stories, and some of them don't seem as fleshed out as they could. Some go on for way longer than they should.
Yeah.
Some don't last long enough. So that's what's great about an anthology movie, though. You can have one short segment that's not as good, and then other ones completely make up for it.
So there is a lot of like cut scenes that just go into fade outs. We talked earlier about a lot of like the comic cut scenes, but there's some that it's just like it's
cut to a fade
it's
out.
just a cut to a fade out, and I hate those. I just think it's very lazy writing.
Extremely lazy.
Yes.
There, like we said, there are stories that are better than others. My least favorite of the 5 is The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. Stephen King holds it together, obviously, and there's some pro wrestling references, which I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just definitely not
There isn't like the scary elements to it. It's more just like comedy.
Yeah, and I think that one was added just for King to be King.
Yeah.
Which like he said, he regrets now. But I mean, even though
There's
that's
no
my
reason to regret it. Like
right, even though it's my least favorite, it's still fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, it still kind of like freaks you out, like having stuff all over you that you can't get out.
And even though what is it? They're creeping up on you.
Yeah.
It is, obviously I don't like bugs and all that stuff.
Gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It's very boring.
Oh, yes,
it is a slog to get through that one sometimes.
Yeah. I just wish
we're going to disagree here.
I wish that some of these were connected, or kind of like tied in together. I like it when anthologies do that. He clearly doesn't. So
nope. All the anthologies I grew up with, though, this, Creepshow 2, Tales from the Hood, none of the, until Tales from the Hood at the very end, obviously, but none of them ever go together. They're usually their own stories, and then the only thing that really wraps together is the wraparound. So that's what I grew up with. And so that's what I love the most about anthologies. And she disagrees, Trick or Treat being one of her favorites, how it all ties in together, which is fine. I respect that. I give that a lot of kudos. I think it's harder to write an anthology where they all tie in together because you have to put in a lot more work to make that happen.
And I think that's what I like about it is that it's like, oh, okay, this is why this is, it goes together. And
she's the workhorse out of us. So when you have something that needs a lot of work, she's obviously going to be more into that because she's the hardest working one of the two of us.
That's
so
not true.
It is true. Mr. Pratt, when he goes unresponsive.
And then the roaches like break out of him. His body doesn't look that great. You can definitely tell that it was like a clay or
But even though it is a negative, it is still a positive because I would rather have
practical.
this, the practical,
yeah.
and the roaches
really
looked
hard
good
to come up with negatives because
as you can tell, we're reaching.
I
on
love
some of
this
these negatives.
anthology so much, and it was really hard to find some negatives, but we have to be negative.
Yes. So again, there's a lot of the negatives here that we just really reached for.
Yeah.
So those are our negatives of the film. If you haven't seen Creepshow 1982. Go watch it because now we're going to spoil it for you.
All right, so now we're going to spoil the movie. There's a wraparound that begins it all, and it's his bad dad. He's yelling at his kid over this comic book.
So goofy.
He doesn't want this creepy comic book in his house, and the kid kind of backtalks him, and so he slaps him.
But then after the slap, because I think he slaps him because he talks about the porno mags in his dad's dresser.
Yeah.
We do get one of the best line deliveries.
I took care of it. That's why God made fathers, babe. That's why God made fathers.
I mean, you don't have to deliver it so sarcastically and drunk, and you don't have to hit your kids, but that's why God made fathers.
Okay.
So that's why God made fathers. So let's get right into Father's Day, the first segment of the bunch. We find out that Bedelia's father had killed her lover. Her father, Nathan, killed her lover. And Bedelia is Nathan's daughter, and a lot of this is based around her and Sylvia and Hank.
Yeah, so Bedelia had to take care of her father, Nathan, and he's very, over the top. He's very demanding.
Where's my cake? You promised me my cake! Bedelia, I'm your father.
He's constantly, where's my cake? And she just couldn't take it anymore. Lost her shit, hits him in the head with an ashtray, killing him.
Right. So she visits his grave on Father's Day, and he emerges from the grave, killing her. I love this sequence. This might be obviously we love the where's my cake and the I got my cake. We love all that, but I love the sequence of him rising from the grave and killing Bedelia.
Yeah. So he also kills one of the grandchild's boyfriends that's walking out looking. He's hungry, okay? He's ready for Bedelia to come inside.
And he drinks the whiskey off the ground.
Yeah. And so then he like falls on the grave.
And it's the longest fall of a grave ever. When it takes that tombstone forever, and
like,
he just lays there.
Move. You can move.
Get out of the way, Hank.
You can still move. Hank, you can move.
Well, then after that, he also kills Sylvia.
The aunt.
So we also get that death as well.
Yes. And then you have the spoiled grandkids that run into Zombie Nathan, and he's holding Sylvia's head on the Father's Day like platter.
So as he announces to all of us, he got his cake.
Yeah.
So again, this is the whole reason we watch this on Father's Day every year. It's just a very close movie to us from watching it growing up, and now we're going to go from Father's Day to the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill. Jordy's a simple person, and I love the effects of the meteor, though.
It looks good.
Yeah, he gets to see the meteor land, which is awesome.
Yep, so he sees the meteor land, he runs over, and he's like
mesmerized.
Thrilled. Like, he's going to take this up to the college, and he's going to get money for it.
I won't settle for any less than $200.
$200 is what he's getting. So he touches it, and it's really hot, and it burns his fingers, and his fingers blister over.
And not only do they blister over, they start to turn green.
Yeah.
Almost like a moldy moss type of green.
Yeah, so after that, then his entire body and his home, they are covered in this like green moss, and he can't get it off. Right. Like he tries to get in the bathtub, and it just makes it worse. Like he's feeding this. Right.
And so finally he unlives himself with a shotgun, because he's just being taken over by now. And again, even though this is probably my least favorite of the bunch, the practical effects in this one are awesome.
Absolutely.
It looks great. This is probably the most comic bookish of the bunch, and so I do have a very special spot in my heart for this segment.
Yeah. So now we are going to get into something to tide you over.
Now, we talked about how that was my least favorite. Obviously, guys, this is my favorite. Anybody that knows me, I've talked about this 1,000 times.
So we're telling them what our favorite are already?
Already.
This is my favorite too, because I love the underwater zombies. I love them. But anyways.
So Richard buries Harry and his wife in the sand because they're having an affair.
Yeah.
So he knows that Harry has been sleeping with his wife. So he takes them both out. I love when he first gets to Richard's house, when he first gets to Harry's house, he's just so cocky and weird and
like looking at the back of his wires on his TV.
Yeah.
And
you
just
know you're going to get a better connection if you tighten these, Harry.
Weird stuff. And I don't know, but I love it. I think it adds to his character. So then he tortures Harry, telling him he tortures him, telling him that he is going to hold how long he has to hold his breath for,
because the tide's coming in.
Yeah, so you have to start practicing. You got to start holding your breath. You have to hold it longer and longer.
If you start freaking out, you're not going to last very long under that water, Harry. Harry and Becky obviously both drown because the tide comes in. It's impossible for them to get out. They drown. And it's so scary, though, like when he turns around and he has the shovel and Richard has the gun pointed at him. And he's like, you're going to get in that grave or I'm just going to shoot you. And he's yelling. He's like, no one's going to hear you out here, Harry.
I know.
It's so, so scary.
But he's super just calm and chill about it the whole time, which I think makes it even more
makes it more
creepy.
Sociopathic and scary.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So then they come back as zombies, which I love. I've already said that. And they bury Richard in the sand.
Yeah. And we obviously get the most iconic line, in my opinion, of the whole movie.
I can hold my breath for a long time.
I love that so much.
It's amazing.
The giggling gets me every time. I just love that.
Yeah, and it works so well. Like it's just this whole segment to me works so well, and I think it's honestly the scariest of the bunch. Just the way that Richard is so, like you said, calm and cool.
Yeah.
But another thing that really scared me is this moment.
I'm gonna get you. You hear me, Richard? You hear me, Richard?
Like that, as a kid, that moment scared me so bad. So.
Yeah, and Richard's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
like,
good luck,
you're
buddy.
Gonna drown. You're stuck in the sand. But yeah, this segment here makes me feel very claustrophobic type, like anxious, just because being buried in the sand like that and then drowning and you can't do anything for yourself. Like, I think this is why I like it so much, is because of the anxiety.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Now, while that's our favorite, this next one, The Crate, is probably the most commonly favorited of the bunch. I would say that this is the most well-liked universally of the bunch.
So you have Henry, who is a professor at a local college, and his wife,
fucking Wilma,
or you can call me Billy.
Yeah, she is just something else.
Yeah.
And he's always dreaming about killing her.
He's having
like the one where he shoots her and everybody starts applauding.
I know.
Everybody's just clapping for him. And then he has the one with the tie, and he just, strangles her with the necktie. Like, how bad is your relationship when you have to constantly think about different ways that you would murder your partner?
She's not nice to him.
No, she's
at
a
all.
bad person.
She's constantly like putting him down, and she's not a great wife to him at all.
Right.
And so his colleague Dex, he finds this crate at the college. Him and the janitor, they get it out and they open it up.
Well, good thing there was nothing inside the crate, because that could have been very, very dangerous.
Except for they think there's something moving in there. And then this monster, like Tasmanian devil, like type monster, eats the janitor.
Yeah. Dex ends up telling Harry about the monster, and Henry goes to the college. He lures Wilma there.
He writes her a note about how Dex is in all this trouble, and she loves drama, so she
wants to go there.
Getting...
I love when he tries to throw her under the stairs. She's like, "Is this Friday night wrestling fights? Like, what are you doing?" But then she ends up being eaten by the monster. Mm-hmm. We do see the last of Wilma.
Or call me Billy.
God, man.
Yeah, so then Henry, he gets the monster back into the crate, and he throws the monster, into the quarry.
And it's a good thing that he did, because the monster won't be able to hurt anybody again.
Ever again.
Oh, wait, the crate broke? Huh. I'm sure that won't come back to haunt anybody ever.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get to the last of the actual segments, and this is They're Creeping Up on You. Rich man Mr. Pratt, who you may also know from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. He's a germaphobe, and his roaches, he just has so many roaches in this apartment. He doesn't know it at first.
Yeah.
But this is a bad dude. Like, this guy sucks.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. But this is like a super expensive apartment. It's like white, everything's white, and he's constantly just spraying these roaches.
Huge germaphobe.
So he finds out one of his workers unlives himself for losing company money, and they didn't want to have to deal with Mr. Pratt anymore.
Norman Gaston Myers shot himself an hour ago.
And Mr. Pratt could really care less.
Doesn't give a shit.
No.
Does not give a shit.
He's actually like kind of thrilled, like, oh, okay, like I had that impact on this guy's life.
Right. Well, then Norman's wife calls him angrily, and he doesn't give a shit.
And how I will rejoice when you're finally dead.
Lots of people are going to rejoice when I'm dead.
The more the merrier. Like, he just does not give a shit about anybody or anything but himself and his white-ass apartment. Mm-hmm. And money, obviously.
And then he's getting more and more roaches. Like, they're taking over everything. They're in his food. They're coming out of every orifice in this apartment.
Wait, what? Yeah, every piece of the apartment has bugs crawling out of it. And eventually they go into him and crawl right out of him. Mm-hmm. They were creeping up on him. They come right out of him. So the son, we go back to the wraparound.
So now we're back to the wraparound, yes.
And he, in one of his comic books that are so disgusting and demonic,
cut out a little coupon thing and sent it in, and he got a voodoo doll.
And he uses it to put his father into a bunch of pain.
Yeah, so he's like, the dad's like grabbing the back of his neck, and
he's just going ham on his dad with a needle and a voodoo doll. Mm-hmm. So overall with this movie, obviously I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Creepshow is one of my favorite anthologies of all time. It's a 2-hour movie, and it does not feel like it. Mm-hmm. This does not feel like you sat there for 2 hours, and I just genuinely love this movie, and it spawned one of my favorite sequels of all time as well. So I'm a huge fan of this film, huge fan of a lot of the segments. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
I think I'm actually going to give it a 4 out of 5 as well. Okay. Not to cap at you or anything, but I do. I really enjoy this movie. I have since I was a kid. It's so much fun. Even though there's segments that I like more than others.
Sure.
I still have fun with all of them. And like you said, it's entertaining. It doesn't feel like a 2-hour movie. Maybe it's because you're getting
Constantly,
different
yeah.
things constantly. So it's like you're entertained.
Right.
And I just love like the comic book feel and how there's just so much positive about this movie. So yeah.
100%. So we want to thank you guys for watching. And again, happy Father's Day to all the fathers
happy
out
Father's
there.
Day.
But let us know in the comments, what is your favorite segment from this movie? Do you prefer Creepshow 1 or Creepshow 2? And would you like to see us review Creepshow 2 as well? Because I promise if you guys want to see it, we will do it because we love that one as well. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It does help to build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror.
Stay who you are.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.